If you're looking for an event space to hire for your next function, take advantage of West Ashfield's member-exclusive functions offer with 50% off event space Monday to Thursdays. It's available for corporate, social, and more. Contact their functions team today, function.ash, A-S-H, at cateringhq.com.au, or give them a call on 028752 2080. Terms and conditions apply. And with the NRL season kickstarting next week, you can watch all the games live on big screens from the home of the West Tigers, West Ashfield. For more information, visit holmanbarnesgroup.com.au. And welcome into another episode of the WestsLife Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Barnett. We are brought to you by the Holman Barnes Group. That includes West Ashfield Leagues Club, the best place to watch the game live and loud in how many sleeps now? 11 sleeps till
11.
Sunday week. Sounds about right. When we take on the Titans. And we are also welcoming in all our streamers. Thank you for joining us on a Wednesday evening on YouTube and Facebook. While you're there, if you haven't already, subscribe, like, turn notifications on so you never miss an episode. And patreon.com/WestsLife if you'd like to support the show. We'll get to the boys and girls questions from there later in the show. A lot of questions and answers tonight. Obviously, it's the theme of the show. It's kind of that I was saying to the boys before we went on air. It's kind of that in between, purgatory almost between pre-season and season ready to go. So we had our review of the trial on Monday night, and obviously no game to preview this week. And we'll have our survey episode on Monday, and then Red Hot Go ready to preview the first game of the year. So Rob Bashara, welcome in to another episode. How are you on a Wednesday evening?
I'm excellent, Josh. Hope you're well. Aaron, hope you're well. Listeners, hope you're all well. Just a big shout out to the listeners too, Josh. We got some massive numbers from Monday night. So thanks to everyone who's listening to the podcast. We're trying our best, and it looks like you guys love it. So, yeah, really happy to see that.
Let's be honest, it's not because of our talent. It's because the West Tigers
gave
us something good to talk about, and we enjoy talking about it. And obviously, the listeners enjoy listening to it. I did tweet out we 171st with a bullet in the sports charts on Apple Podcasts. So love yous all. Thank you. And my other star of the show, Az, coming in from Orange. How are you tonight, buddy?
Pretty good, thanks, Josh. G'day, Rob. G'day to all the listeners. Happy to be here again. Looking forward to seeing what sort of questions people have got to throw at us. And I don't know, I'm just getting more and more hyped for the season starting next week. I told myself I wouldn't, but here we are.
Yeah, it's amazing what one trial match can do. It's just the buzz around the West. I mean, to be honest, I said it first episode of the year, even at the open trial day, it did feel very different this year. So bring it on. But let's talk a lot of money talk in terms of salary cap and that sort of thing tonight. But yeah, we'll hit those questions. Speaking of which, first news topic, this guy, hopefully this is the last time we talk about this guy until we beat him on Easter Monday. Moses knocked back 1 point whatever with the Tigers to sign 1 point whatever with the Eels, apparently slightly less. After all that, Rob, you said about, just after Christmas that you heard that he was signing with the Eels. Was this, I mean, a lot of people said it's just a ride for the money, trying to push as much money out of the Eels he could get. Do you reckon he was ever a chance of coming?
I don't think he was much chance, although I'm sure people within the West Tigers thought it was real. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made him the offer. It's easy in hindsight to say this, but I think it was just a money grab. They've absolutely got max value. We offered a great deal, and Parramatta's only come up $200,000 short over 5 years, which is $40,000 a year. So it's basically nothing. I think had there been $200,000 or $300,000 difference, might have been a different story. But yeah, my mail came from inside the club, and I was actually told that he wouldn't announce it till close to the season starts. So that's how it panned out, although there was a bit of fluctuating in between there, and we were kind of getting our hopes up a little bit. But look, as I kind of tweeted last night, one massive positive out of this is hopefully we're going to have a really good year regardless. And if we are having a really good year, we don't have that safety net of saying, oh, but, we're going to be even better in 2024 with Moses. Like, now that Moses is out of the picture, whoever our halves are, which looks like it's Brooks and Dewey, we just run with that now, and we go as hard as we can, and we don't have this expectation that we're getting another superstar next year. We've got what we've got. We've got some really good kids coming through. We're all pumped up about the season, so let's rock and roll. Let's get out to Leichhardt Sunday week.
A couple of comments coming through. Murray says that's a shame. Not EMOG dodged the bullet with Moses. GD Tiger, too much cash for him anyway. So, and we can all go back to hating him. Yep. That's like I said, can't wait for Easter Monday. So, yeah, we'll get into some ideas for that, where to spend. Look, it shows we have cash. As you said this before we started, but look, showing that there's plenty of cash there to spend might actually pique some interest to other players and their managers.
Yeah, for sure. So I'd say the way like that Moses money would be spent now would either be trying to lock up some of our juniors or promising up and comers on a longer term contract, or like you said, could potentially bring interest from managers of other players who might look at the Tigers as a potential destination. But in saying that, the amount of money that we were offering means that those managers are probably going to jack the prices of their players up a fair bit to try and capitalize on that.
It's a fair point. Righto, enough of that bloke. Speaking of good blokes, Brighton's lawyers, they've committed to sponsorship for the West Tigers, and they're expanding it to the NRLW team as well. That's signed on for 23 and 24. Look, I know we've been critical of these two fellas in the past, but they seem funny. They're shaking hands like they've made a deal, but they worked like they're work colleagues. It's just pretty funny. Like, I know, like, it's the standard photo for this news, and Lee committing all this money to the club. It's the best. We need, like, the cash keeps the club going, but it's just funny. It's like they've probably got an office next door to each other, and like, oh, let's walk out in front of the sign and take a photo for the website. It's pretty funny. But yeah, thanks to Brighton's lawyers committing their sponsorship there. I thought we'd also bring up, probably everyone was talking about this today. The club launched their own podcast now, and yeah, obviously we got tagged. People were tagging us in it and that sort of thing. But we've all had. Have you had a listen yet? I haven't asked you if you had a listen to the Robbie episode they put up today.
Yeah, I was having a bit of a listen while after I got home from work today. I had to do a training thing, and I was listening to that through my TV while I was doing that. So yeah, it was a pretty enjoyable listen. I mean, a lot of the stuff we'd heard before, there wasn't too much new information there because obviously we've had Robbie on here previously, and his life story's been told a few times now. But always good to hear from him, and a few positive things to say about the club this year, but there could have been a little bit more hype, I feel.
Yeah, Rob, you thought the same thing. Like, we had, sound like we're tooting our own horn here, but we had Robbie on a year ago, and he said kind of similar stuff that was in that. We're kind of keen to hear from Robbie, kind of behind the scenes, what's going on. We're all Robbie Farah diehard fanatics anyway, so we kind of knew a lot of what he said, and you were obviously beyond that, Rob, you're mates with him, so you kind of knew all the stuff that was kind of said on it. But yeah, it's good on the club for doing it. To be honest, it's 2023. I thought they would have done it a long time. Dan did do one. What was it called? Beyond the 80 or something?
Beyond the 80. That's right. That was the COVID year, I think.
Yeah, it was around COVID, so I guess it made it, and things got a bit weird. But yeah, Dan Talantayo, who's moved on to the NRL, now doing media for them, he set up one for him back then. But they scrapped it for some reason. I listened to that. I mean, when we were in lockdown, it came in very handy. But yeah, good luck. Keen to hear backstories of other players and that sort of thing. So we don't see it as an opposition. You come to us for stuff that the club's not going to talk about, then obviously not going to criticize themselves. We call it as it is, not to say we're going to criticize them all the time. We call the good that's good and the bad that's bad. They're kind of obviously got to stay within the brand and that sort of thing. Be constantly positive. If we lose, we'll say, well, we lost and that sort of thing. Whereas obviously the club will have to kind of
sugarcoat it.
Sugarcoat it. Yeah. So it's more PR. Go to them for the PR and the fluffy stuff, and where you want to hear what the fan base is really thinking, because we like to be the voice of the fans. You guys coming on, and that's what. Hopefully, rant pods don't become a thing this year. Hopefully, we can be positive this year as well. But
I think vent pods are over, Josh. I think vent pods are over. I think we're going to have a good year. And we wouldn't be promoting this if we thought it was some sort of competition. As supporters, we want good feedback, good content. And as you said, we've heard Robbie's story many times, like on Andy Raymond's 2-part and what we had, with us this time last year. And it's a bit like 2005. You never get sick of hearing it. But I was really looking forward to hearing some in-depth stuff about what's going on behind the scenes, like some details of what goes on at training and the strategies and all that sort of stuff. So it would have been nice to hear that, but it'll definitely be nice to hear about, the Justin Matamuas and the Jakey Simpkins and those guys that we don't know too much about, because we know everything about Tim Sheens and Robbie Farah and Benji Marshall and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, like our listeners are going to, at least they've got more content to choose from. But I think, we've all suffered together. We've all got similar opinions about the club and what should have happened, etc. And I think, we've suffered together. We're going to succeed together. So I'm pretty sure our listeners will stick solid with us anyway.
GD Tiger says praise pods this year. Sorry, not GD Tiger. Sorry, Jay said that. GD Tiger said we'll still listen to you a lot. Yeah, just don't worry. And he says they're only on Apple and Spotify. I did notice that. I use Google Podcasts and went to look for it. I had to switch apps. A little bit annoying. I guess Apple and Spotify are like 80% of the market. So I'm sure they'll work out how to put it on Google. You want any tips? I know they listen to this show, so if you want any tips on how to set it up, give me a call.
I'll tell you what, though, they said they've got Sheensy on next week. I reckon that'll be a good listen, and there might be potential some behind the scenes stuff.
That actually will be a really good listen if they get him on. But I was saying to the guys on the Patreon, I thought the ironic part was when they were trying to talk about Robbie and the era where Jason Taylor and a couple of people got rid of him at the club. He kind of said one or two people shouldn't ruin your love of the club. And that's kind of the attitude I've got now with a couple of people. So we're on the same page
there. Kim, for you guys and love the show. Look, we know you guys love. Look, I listen to probably 9 or 10 plus podcasts a week. I don't expect you can only pick one podcast, and it has to be us. And listen to us. Listen to whoever. I love the NRL Boom Rookies. I'm a Patreon sub for those guys. I don't expect you guys to listen to us and only us. So welcome to the club, West Tigers, and Ray Warren's son. What's his name again? Chris. Sorry, Chris. Such a good voice, man. Talking about with friend today, just genetics. How can genetics work on athleticism and also works on voices? Just amazing voice. He needs to give me some tips. But all right, on to the questions. So a lot of questions came through kind of a similar theme as kind of where do we spend the money. First one from Lance. He says, I always love tuning in to watch your podcast. Needless to say, it's the highlight of my week. Thank you, Lance. We'll take that one. My question to you each is, which players excite you the most this season, and who do you fear will not live up to the hype or your expectations? Kind of similar to the question we got on Patreon a couple of weeks ago, but we'll twisted a little bit. And also, what are your collective thoughts on Brooksy perhaps having a standout season now that his position within the team may be under threat due to the potential signing of Moses? Taking into account, Lance sent this email on, when did we go to air? Monday. He sent it late Monday night, I think. So obviously the Mitchell Moses thing, news dropped the next day. Keep up the great work. Go the Tigers. Thank you, Lance. So first part, as what players excite you the most this season? Actually, I'm going to go first. Sean Blaw. Okay, that's my answer. Go Aaron Thompson. Who's yours? I didn't want you guys to steal my answer.
All right.
I mean, are we allowed to pick more than one, or are we?
Yeah, of course you can. Of course you can.
Pick more than one.
No, you're allowed to listen to one podcast, and you're allowed to pick one player.
You're allowed to give a reason too, Aaron, unlike Josh did.
I don't think we.
I don't need to bore the listeners why Sean Blaw love anymore. They know.
Too funny.
It's all about the gun show, isn't it, Josh?
Look, it's a man crush, but he's also a good footballer as well, and he's
a better bloke.
Nice he's a good human and a good player. That's a big part of it. Yeah. Who's your pick? Az?
I'd go Blaw. I do think him coming back from his injury this year, and what we heard after the game from Sheensy the other day, where the boys really gave him a bit of a G up afterwards, and he was nervous to get out there. I think he's ready to rip in. I'm looking forward to seeing Twally back. His season last year being heavily interrupted by those concussions, and then ended by that concussion he suffered against the Dogs. And then as for one of the new guys, I think we're going to see a really good year of Charlie Staines as well.
Roberto?
Yeah, look, it might be stating the obvious, but I'm really looking forward to Big Steph. I think Steph's going to basically be almost a premier prop in the game. What he's shown already in a couple of matches, he's back to his beast mode of 2021. He scored tries in that sort of debut season with us. I think he'll do it again this year alongside Clem. They're both going to be exciting. What I saw from Fanua Pole, especially in the New Zealand game in a heavy loss, he's really exciting. Out of the backs, everyone knows Dwayhe's my favourite. I can't wait for Dwayhe to just show everyone he owns that 6, and there should never have been a question mark on him at 6. So even though he's like our most important player in the back line, I think he's actually going to prove that this year. And look, obviously all the young guys coming through, and even those second tier players that aren't available till after round 10, you could go on forever about them. But if I had to put my finger on one person that I'm not hoping will deliver, Big Steph. He's going to kill it.
Yeah, the good thing is seeing all the people are dropping theirs in the comments, and man, the beauty is like everyone's giving different answers. That's how good, how much. Yeah, so
and there's reasons for everyone, Josh. There's reasons. We can state a case for anyone.
So Joe said Appy Ice and Clemmer. Kim said Tommy Talau. Later Brach said Brooksy. GD Tiger, Paul and Naden. Rachel said Junior Tupou. Shay reckons AD will be Daily M 5'8" of the year. Jimmy said Kepa Owa, RTK, Naden and Laurie. Joey Lulash.
Yeah, Lulash. I was actually getting the pronunciation wrong.
Joey Lulash. He said John Bateman. I haven't even mentioned John Bateman yet. And then Lance said, thanks, lads, for answering my question. No, thank you for sending it in. Lance, taking the time. Mitch, Pole, Clemmer, Matamua. I think there's at least 13 guys named in those comments. Well,
and the beauty is too, some of those players we've all mentioned, are they going to be in the team? Like, is Staines going to be there? Is Tupou going to be there? Is Matamua going to get a run? Like, there's just so much competition for different positions. We just need to stay healthy the first half of the comp. We don't want to be copping injuries and then getting kind of down to our best 17 with no one in the background. We really need to stay pretty healthy the first half of the year at least.
I think the main reason why it's so easy to have so many options for players who we're looking forward to seeing having a good year probably be to do with, obviously, when you finish with the spoon, not many players are going to have had a good season other than a few individuals here and there. So a lot of those guys who they were either interrupted by injury or they just didn't really perform all that well, or in the case of Dewey, a little bit of both, where he missed the first half of the season, then came back and clearly wasn't at his best form. When you've got a lot of players like that and you finished last, and you can basically say the only way from there is up, there's so many players to say, hey, this guy, he could probably have a much better season this year. And we can look forward to seeing the best of such and such player. So it's really exciting for a team like us to have finished with the spoon for the first time in our history, to have this excitement about all our players and how they're going to improve and what we're going to see for them moving forward this year. I think that's probably one of the most exciting things at the moment.
And as I said on Monday's show, like, we're not saying we're going to go out and win the premiership this year, but I'm just excited. It's a team to be proud of, and I think they're going to do us proud and fight each and every week and be in the contest. So can't say that for the last, 2 or 3, I know people say 10 seasons, but it's particularly the last 2 seasons. Yeah, bring it on. Right, Gavin Lang has sent in an email as well. Thank you, Gavin. So we didn't get Mitchell Moses, so obviously he's emailed me after that news. We have, however, freed up a cool $1.25 million a year from 2024 onwards. So what do we do with all that money? Is there anyone else we need that's off contract at the end of this year? He said, I kind of like the idea of just letting everyone know the money is just sitting there. Either the current players will play out of their skins looking for an upgrade, or when a quality player comes on the market, we are ready to buy. Some good points there. As anyone off the top of your head that you'd, as Glenn Ridge used to say, do you know who Glenn Ridge is as?
No.
Sailor of the Century host.
Sailor of the Century, he'd say, let's go shopping. For all the people old enough to remember Sailor of the Century.
Honestly, I can't think of too many players that are off contract off the top of my head at the moment. I'd much rather see the money be put into basically shoring up potentially a few players who we might want to lock up past this year. I'm having a quick look at the list now, and there's a few players on 1-year contracts. Tommy Talau's off contract after this year. If he has a good season, then some of that money could go to him. But we do have actually a lot of spots full for next year. Kenny Mamalo's got a mutual option for next year. If he spends too much time injured, I doubt we'll see that taken up. But there's a few options there where it could be nice to, hey, say to this guy, hey, have some more money. If you play well for us, you can have some more money to basically tie them down at the club.
Rob, any ideas?
Look, the one that comes to mind for me, and especially because we need backs, would be Joey Manu. But, whether you can extract him from the Roosters is highly doubtful. But he's also got a desire to play fullback, as well as he's a brilliant centre as well. So he can cover 2 positions there. I think we should be looking to spend money on the back line, because that's kind of where we're weakest. I think we've got so much depth in the forwards, and, guys like Clemmer and Bateman and Papali, they're going to be there for a few years. So I don't think there's any desperation to bring in any forwards from outside. So, I think if Jakey Simkin has a good year, we don't really need a backup hooker. So, look, everyone would say, yeah, let's get a halfback, let's replace Brooks. But who is there to get, really, that can play halfback that's off contract? So, Look, hopefully the boys have a good year. And as Aaron said, we can upgrade those contracts, because our big trap has always been paying too much money for a bloke. And then when someone that we're bought for a bargain buy gets really good, we have to let him go because we can't compete. But, Joey Manu for me. But, the Roosters have just signed Dominic Young, and apparently he's knocked back $500,000 contracts and stuff like that. And I just think that's laughable, because Dominic Young would be, as great as he is, and he's an international winger, he will literally be the worst player in that Roosters backline. How they keep getting away with that sombrero and their bullshit salary cap is just very frustrating. And that's something we're going to have to watch in the future with our great juniors that are coming through the ranks.
Shay on Facebook said Suwali wants to play fullback for the Roosters. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if, as Tedesco, he's got one. How many years he got left? The Roosters.
He's got 2 more.
We joke about the sombrero, but they're going to eventually have to shed someone. And I think if Teddy's in his it shows any sign of going downhill. Because, man, to be honest, I reckon Suwali, within 2 years, I reckon he could be the best player in the game. I just think he's an absolute freak. He's going to be like Greg Inglis-esque. So I could see them making a decision to say, "Hey, Teddy, why don't you,
See you later.
go get paid somewhere else?" And I'm sure the West Tigers, we might have the money to do that. So I still think Tedesco's. I think he's 30 this year. I think he's 93, baby.
Yeah,
93.
He's his birthday is exactly 2 months before mine, and he's the same age as me. His birthday is January 8th, so yeah, he's 30 now.
Yeah, 30 this year. So, so I reckon he's got another. I reckon he could play to his 34. So, depending, on injury. So, obviously it won't be like 28-year-old Teddy, but I still think he'd be a very good player at 34. So,
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just GD said on YouTube, don't go back to an ex. I don't know. When your ex is it's like going back to bloody Giselle Bundchen, isn't it? Like,
I think the age is pretty relevant too, Josh. Like, if it was a 20, I mean, Teddy's elite. Don't get me wrong, and we love him. We love his parents who listen to the show as well. But if Teddy was 27, 28, it'd be a no-brainer. But when they start getting to 30, and respectfully, Teddy's had a few concussions the last 2 seasons. It's a bit risky. If we're going to spend that crazy money, that 1.2, 1.3 money, you'd want to spend it on. I mean, Suwali's not even in Tedesco's league yet, but I'd rather spend it on a Suwali or a Manu who's got a lot more time left in the game.
Has Teddy been the Roosters player of the season every year since he left the Tigers?
You're asking that like we're Roosters members. we hate the Roosters. I wouldn't know. I'm sure he probably got it the first year, but like I say, the Roosters keep who they want. Even when they signed Cooper Cronk, they actually said to Mitchell Pearce, "You're welcome to stay and play 5'8". You know, like they just make their own rules up afterwards. Then obviously Pearce ended up going immediately to Newcastle because he had the shits. But they just keep who they want, and literally, I think the only mistake they've ever made is really letting Latrell Mitchell go. But other than that, they literally keep every super talent at their club.
They also steal whoever they want to.
Yeah, they do. I can't stand them. They're a blight on the game, honestly.
At least we'd have to play them till round 22 or something. So
at least we can smash them this year too, and maybe put a few points on them and get some revenge for that 72-10 loss.
Yeah, fingers crossed. It never seems to happen, but maybe this year is the year. Bilbo Smith on Twitter, he asked who are we going to spend the 1.3 mil on. So he kind of asked the same question. Sorry, Billy. Yeah. You kind of a lot of people want to know from us who we want to spend money on, but where you should get your IT expertise and protection against. Sorry, just stalling as I bring up the ad. Mobile Corp. So Stephen, a long-time listener from Mobile Corp, passionate West Tigers fan. He is from Mobile Corp, and they can assist with anything IT related. And in the early days, they were the major sponsor of Balmain in '94 because they were known as MLC Phones back then. I used to go. That was when my love of the Balmain Sydney Tigers back then. I was 6 in '94, so that's when my love for footy came through. And MLC Phones, absolutely iconic. Yeah, I would have known that brand when I was 6, 7 years old. So, and they say there's a saying in IT, there are only 2 types of companies, those who have been hacked and those who will be hacked. So what can business owners do to protect themselves from cyber attack? Mobile Corp is a family-run tech company that supports the West Tigers and was even a jersey sponsor back in 2007. Mobile Corp is passionate about helping protect businesses from cyber threats. For an affordable cyber security solution, go to mobilecorp.com.au and shouts to our friend of the show, Shane Walker, former West Tiger and Balmain Tiger on the graphic there. Righto, lower grades. I flipped the graphics around this week. I thought I liked having the Balmain and West together. But this way, I think if people want to go out and watch either side of the junior base, I've put them together. So Magpies juniors this week, they're playing at Raiders Belconnen in Canberra. So Harold Matts at 12:30 and SG Ball at 2. And then Balmain juniors, Harold Matts are at 11:30 at Belmore Sports Ground against the Doggies. And SG Ball have the bye. So it's weird. You think their draw would be in sync. So, one Balmain team has the bye, one is playing. So, Harvey Norman Women's Premiership. The girls are split on this too, which I found odd. So, the Harvey Norman girls, they're playing 7 o'clock on Monday night. So, before you watch the WestsLife podcast at 8:30, New South Wales Rugby League Centre of Excellence. So, that's a field across the road from Accor Stadium. You can watch the girls play Mounties. I did that who were they playing? They played the Sharks. The team, they end up beating the grand final. They beat the Sharks in the grand final, didn't they?
Correct.
Yep.
So I saw them lose to the Sharks there mid last season, and then we'd go on to beat them in the grand final. So you go up to the fence and just watch the girls play. You're right there. The field's kind of like right there. Stick your nose through the fence. The weather's It was pretty crappy today, but that night I went and watched them. It was freezing cold, but hopefully the weather's a little bit better. Now
that game will also be streamed on New South Wales Rugby League on Facebook as well. So those of us who aren't able to go can watch the stream of the game before watching us.
Thanks, Az. I should have noticed that little icon there on the graphic there too. Tarsha Gale, they're at Raiders Belconnen against Canberra at 11 a.m. Oh, so they're with the Magpies juniors. Okay, that makes sense then. So you get 3 games down in Canberra for those listeners who live in the ACT. Laurie Daly Cup and Edge Johns Cup. So they're both at Kirkham Oval, Camden, a home game this week. They're playing the Colts of Monaro. I don't know where Monaro is, but where's Monaro?
No idea.
I can tell you what a Holden Monaro is, but I have no idea where Monaro. Actually, they call it Monero. Isn't the cars are Monaro and the town's Monero? Every election you hear.
Yeah. Political seat called Eden Monero. That must be it.
Eden Monero. Yeah, it's Monero, not Monaro. Okay. Yeah, that's who they're playing against. Righto. Rob Shadamas, obviously no game this week, but doesn't mean Roberto here can't make us some money. So I noticed a few future bets for this year. So top try scorer, I thought would bring up some good conversation. So obviously West Tigers only, who scores the most tries for the West Tigers this year. David Nofaluma is $1.85 favourite. Boys, is there any value in anyone outside of Nofa? Do you think anyone could beat Nofa this year? Obviously, wingers always pay the least, but is there a sneaky bet somewhere? Because maybe, does Nofa play all 24 games this year? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's really relevant to who's healthy. It's really relevant to who's healthy.
Yeah. So that's why I think there could be value in, say, Tupou's not even on the list here. Daniel Tupou's paying like 150 to 1 or something.
No, Junior. Our Tupou. We're talking.
Sorry, not Daniel. Junior. Sorry, I meant Junior. Yeah, Junior Tupou is not even on the list. He's like 150 to 1. So,
well, he'd be the value. Yeah. He'd be the value. Yeah. He's probably going to start the year at left centre, and it looks like we're going to stick with Naden playing on the left side, and he's rather elusive. So if we can keep creating extra men on that side, Nofa's the obvious one, but I don't know. He's not even going to be there halfway through the year. We don't know. Like, it's just Charlie Staines might not even get a run. It's just it's very open for positions there. So. I think a sneaky one might even be Dane Laurie. Like, if Dane Laurie can bring back that form from 2021 and back up the way he does back up, and we make some breaks, he could be on the end of some breaks and score some tries there. So
So
It's
Junior
honestly, put your money in the bank for that. Don't worry about futures. Put your money in the bank. It's too far down the track. I don't do futures stuff.
Junior Tupou is $8. So since I did that screenshot, they've added him in. So he's $8. So,
okay, well, that's great value. I reckon.
Yeah.
He's great under the high ball. Yeah, he's on the wing.
Yeah.
For a winger, that's a crazy price.
Scored a good try last weekend and saw him absolutely run rings around Notha at the open training day. So, yeah, that might be a sneaky good bet. Dane Laurie, maybe 9-1.
Yeah.
So, also, I won't say which bookie it is, but they're all kind of offering similar one because they don't sponsor us. So I'm not giving any bookie a leg up on where to have a punt, but 9.5 is the line that this particular bet sports company put up. How do you boys see the 9.5 line? Do you think we can win 10 games this year?
Well, if you're asking me, if we win our first 2 games, yes, but I think everything's hinging on our first 2 rounds.
Yeah,
I think
I'd agree with that.
If we win 2 games, we're going to win more than 10 as well. It won't even be just 10. So
yeah,
I think we'll probably make the 8 if we win the first 2 games.
Well, first 2, you'd only need 8 out of the next 22. So
yeah,
I'd definitely agree. Obviously, the price would drop.
I mean, it's risky. Considering we came last, I mean, I can see why they've only put 9.5. But
yeah,
if we got off to a poor start, then we'd literally got to go 50-50 to get to that number. So yeah, look, hopefully we get off to a good start, boys, and we're thinking finals and semi-finals and grand finals.
Right, enough of my gambling addiction. On to the Patreon questions. Gamble responsibly, as always. I say gambling addiction. I put like $1 on NBA multis that never get up. Righto. What about beautiful Patreon members? As I open up Discord, what do they got for us? Have you guys seen what the fellas and ladies have left for us in there?
I can't see right now, Josh, but
I saw a few of them.
Gussie's first question in the Discord after joining this week: Should the Tigers chase Joey Manu for 2025 with the Moses money and re-sign Brooks and upgrade young guns? So we've kind of already answered your question, Gussie. Yeah, Joey Manu definitely is up there. Yeah, it's funny how everyone's just the same thing. There's so many things about this year, and everyone's singing about 2025. But Brocker, do I hear he's locked up for at least next year? We go into this year with Brooksy and Dane, hoping for a new contract from 2024 onwards. Does the club table them an offer mid-year or wait closer to the end of the year to see what they produce this season? If Brooksy doesn't perform, who's a potential option? I guess if they're playing well, I don't see why the club. Yeah, the thing is, if they're playing well, do the players back themselves and see what the market gets them? So it goes both ways, I guess. So what are your thoughts on that, Az?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're hoping the players get off to a good start and don't have to worry too much about that. But players like AD, who could potentially look for their future elsewhere, he'd really want to get off to a flying start. I hope but I hope if he does get off to a flying start, we look at keeping him long term, because obviously with no more Brooksy, then we really need to invest in a halves combination and try and get one that works. And I mean, if Dewey and Brooksy this year works, then we wouldn't really want to change anything, would we? We'd want to keep that going for as long as we can. Keep building the rest of the team up around them. But the signings we've made this year, I feel like with the halves combo we've gotten, the familiarity they have with each other, and adding Appy into that as the hooker, there's a lot of potential there for the halves to, I guess, blossom off of the forward pack and Appy and everything else we've had come around.
Rob?
Yeah, I think it's a really tricky one. Personally, I would do it mid-season at the latest if we've got off to a really good start. And I'll explain why. If we're going gangbusters and we're 4 or 5 weeks out from making the semi-finals and we're sitting in 5th or 6th position, all being well, I don't think you'd want negotiations with your player should there be a hiccup to just sort of backfire on your season. So, like, if he gets a little bit unhappy that the offer we make or the money he wants a way out of sync, then I think it can be fraught with danger. So I'd really rather do it by halfway through the season. Otherwise, just leave it till the end of the season. Don't disturb things. You don't want to have negotiations going on shortly before semi-finals and stuff like that. And if we're out of contentions for the semi-finals, then there's not going to be that talk anyway. So it's either mid-year for me or nothing. But it is you're sort of playing with fire if you're going to start negotiating and things go pear-shaped and ruin what could potentially be a great season.
Mitchie, last question in the Discord. So he's mentioned Jack Wellsby. I saw a few people in the comments mention the St. Helens. Did he play halfback against the Panthers? I didn't actually see that game. Is he there?
I think he's fullback, isn't he?
Was he fullback?
I think so. I don't quote me.
People are saying throw money at him. Do you know much about Jack Wellsby?
Unfortunately, no, I don't. But based on the game between the Panthers and the Saints, that he was probably one of the stars, one of the star performers. It was the whole team. They weren't expected to win. I think I remember the coverage had them something like $6.50 outsiders for sports bet or whatever it was, and I thought that was a little bit harsh on them because they were a solid team. And they really showed it. And yeah, he was the fullback, and he definitely aimed up and was a big part of the reason why they won.
Gee, the Tiger said he's only 21, so
and he's a fullback. They've just got a couple of them. Thank you, guys.
Everyone seems to be writing off Dane Laurie pretty quickly. I mean, pre-injury,
you're not going to knock back a star. I mean, we've got a good record with British imports. Look, it's up to the club. I mean, they'll recognise who is best for us. But he did really well that night against the Panthers. And did he kick the winning field goal too, Aaron? Do you remember?
No, that was the halfback. I think
that was a halfback. Okay.
Yeah, Lewis Dodd.
Yeah. Okay.
Randomizer on YouTube just said he plays halfback for England. That's what I was getting mixed up. Okay. Yeah. I don't know too much about him, but I don't know. Does he want to live in Australia? I guess money talks, doesn't it? So
plenty of good fullbacks around.
Yeah. So much to happen this year. So, I mean, these first, like you've already mentioned, these first two games, the fact they're at Leichhardt, it is really going to set the tone for the season, I think, as you said earlier, Rob. So, yeah,
not just that too, Josh. Our third game's at Belmore, which is, as we know, like we had a good win there on Sundays, and it's nice and close to Concord. So, we could really get off to a 3-0 start, depending on how things go. Like, don't want to jump ahead, but I just think winning gives you confidence, and then that can just be a big snowball effect, and we can just sort of kick on from there. So I'm hoping for that anyway.
You predicted 0-5 last year, didn't you? Didn't you say in the
I did.
preview last year? You said we could be 0-5.
Yeah, I said we'd come second last as well, just because I didn't want to say we'd come last.
Rob Stradamus at it again. So put your money on Tigers to win that first game. Righto, on to next show. So Monday night, finally, I promoted it for the last 3 episodes. The season prediction poll or what do you call it? Google form survey. Survey is the word I'm looking for. I've only said it 100 times. That's easy. So go to our profile pages in the link in this episode as well. Click the Linktree link, and there's a link to that survey. Fill it in. Have some fun. Leave a comment. As you mentioned to me earlier, what answer was it you wanted me to mention? Because you can. There's one question you can type out, and I'll play. I'll read the best answers on the show on Monday. Yeah, it's just a random prediction. That's it. So random prediction for this year. So I'll whip out the best ones, give you a shout out. So I do know who. I can look up who answers what, obviously, in the back end of it. So we'll have some fun with it on Monday before previewing the first game of the year. We're lining up a special guest for Wednesday's show for the preview for the Titans game. So fingers crossed that still happens. I don't want to say who it is. Don't want to scare them away if they don't want to come on or if it falls through. So, but potentially a special guest for Wednesday's show. And before anyone says, no, it's not Benji Marshall or Tim Sheens or Rory Farah. But it'll be fun. I promise. Anything else, fellas, before we go to our last weekend of 2023, last weekend for the next 30-ish with no rugby league?
No, just looking forward to the game Sunday week. I tried to get tickets today online, and there was literally only seating behind the corner posts at the northern end on both corner posts. So
Wow.
kind of decline that. So I've contacted a cousin trying to see if he's got a couple of spare tickets. And by the way, I just want to give a quick shout out to my cousin Andrew. It's his birthday, so happy birthday, Andrew. He's like one of the biggest Tiger supporters you'll ever see. So season ticket holder. So I might be scoring a ticket with him. I'm not sure yet.
I'll get a seat for you too if you want. We'll talk off air, as you'll be at Leichhardt Oval as well. So it'd be good to see you for the first time 2023 in the flesh as well. So footy next week to talk about. Bring it on. Thank you to Shay. Shay suggested you could ask JP for a ticket, Rob.
You know what? He'd probably give it to me too.
We've been good. We've been good this year. We've been good boys this year. So,
or is Shay asking Pasco as the guest for the preview on Wednesday next week?
For Wednesday, it's not
either or both.
No. Yeah, I don't. It's not. It's no one. Look, put it this way. It's nothing. It's no one West Tigers employed. So, yeah. So I'll leave it there. Everyone, enjoy your weekends. Thank you for joining us. The 50 or so of you that joined us in the stream tonight. Love yous all. You helped us when we were stumped on a few things. So we really, really enjoy doing these live shows. That's what the new West Tigers podcast. They don't do live shows with commenters, do they? So, no.
The
Welcome
good stuff starts next week, boys and girls. The good stuff starts next week. We can get excited next week. Big things.
As always, go the Tigers.
Go the Tigers.
Go the Tigers.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the WestsLife Podcast. Please follow us at WestsLife Pod on Instagram and Twitter, and facebook.com/WestsLifePod. You can also support and take part in the show at patreon.com/WestsLife, and give us a subscribe on YouTube and turn notifications on. We'll see you again next time on another episode of the WestsLife Podcast.